Birthdays are supposed to be about joy, right? But what if the one day meant to celebrate you becomes the day you wish you could forget? That's exactly what happened to me. It was supposed to be perfect, a gathering of close friends, family, and loved ones. But then, something happened. Something I'll never be able to erase from my mind. I've thought long and hard about whether I should share this story, but if it helps even one person avoid the pain I've gone through, it'll be worth it. So let me take you back to that day, my birthday, the day that started with happiness and ended with a betrayal I never saw coming. The party was in full swing. Everyone seemed happy, and I was surrounded by people who I thought cared about me. One person in particular stood out, my husband's friend, someone we'd both trusted for years, and that's why what happened next shook me to my core. He started acting strange. It was subtle at first, things only I would notice. A little too close, a little too familiar. But it wasn't until later that night, when most of the guests had left, that everything changed. You know how sometimes you get this gut feeling that something isn't right? That's what I felt. My husband had stepped out to take a phone call, and I was tidying up the kitchen, thinking about how wonderful the day had been. That's when he walked in. At first, I thought he was just staying to help clean up, but his tone, his body language, it wasn't friendly anymore. He started saying things, compliments that felt off, things that made my skin crawl. I tried to brush it off, pretending not to notice, but then he stepped closer, too close. His words became more inappropriate, laced with implications that made me feel sick. I wanted to believe I was overreacting, that it was just a misunderstanding, but deep down I knew it wasn't. Every fibre of my being screamed at me to get out of that situation, but I felt trapped, cornered in my own home. He reached out and touched my arm. It was a small gesture, but it carried so much weight. I pulled back instinctively, my heart racing. "You should go," I managed to say, my voice trembling. I wanted to sound strong, but fear was making it hard to think straight. Instead of leaving, he smirked. "Come on, it's just a little fun," he said, as if that would make his behaviour acceptable. My mind was spinning. How could someone I'd known for so long, someone I'd trusted, act this way? The moments that followed felt like hours. I kept my distance, trying to think of a way to diffuse the situation without escalating it. I didn't want to cause a scene with guests still lingering in the other room. But then I realised, why was I so worried about making him uncomfortable when he clearly had no regard for my feelings or safety? He put his big thing in me. I do not know, but I feel something good. I forget my party. His face was in my legs. That's when something in me shifted. I stood taller, steadied my voice, and said firmly, "You need to leave, now." For a moment he looked stunned. Then his expression hardened, like he couldn't believe I was standing up to him, but I didn't back down. Just as the situation felt like it might spiral out of control, my husband walked back in. The relief I felt in that moment was overwhelming, but it was quickly replaced by anger. Not at my husband, but at the fact that it had taken me so long to find my voice. I told him everything right there and then. I didn't care about the party, the guests, or the potential fallout. My husband's reaction was immediate. He confronted his friend, demanding an explanation. Of course, there was none. There's no excuse for crossing boundaries like that. My husband asked him to leave, his voice shaking with anger and disappointment. Watching someone we both trusted be exposed in such a way was heartbreaking. As the door closed behind him, I felt a wave of emotions. Relief, anger, sadness, but also a sense of empowerment. For the first time in a long time, I'd stood up for myself in a situation where it would have been easier to stay silent. And that decision, as difficult as it was, made all the difference. In the days that followed, I couldn't stop replaying the events in my mind. What if I hadn't spoken up? What if I'd let him get away with it? The thought was unbearable, but I also realized something else. I wasn't to blame for what happened. His actions were his choice, and nothing I did or didn't do could justify them. This experience taught me the importance of trusting my instincts and setting firm boundaries, no matter how uncomfortable it might feel in the moment. It also reminded me of the importance of having a strong support system. My husband's immediate response, his unwavering support, made all the difference in helping me process what had happened. To anyone watching this who's been in a similar situation, know this: you are not alone. You have the right to feel safe and respected, and you have the strength to stand up for yourself, even when it feels impossible. I finally found my voice. I stepped back, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "Stop, you need to leave, now." For a moment he seemed taken aback, like he didn't expect me to stand up for myself. But then his expression changed to something darker. I've never been more afraid in my life, but I refused to let him see that. I kept my voice firm, repeating that he needed to leave. That's when my husband walked back in. The look on his face when he saw what was happening, it was like time stopped. I told him everything right there and then. I didn't care about the party, the guests, or the embarrassment. This wasn't something I could hide. My husband was furious. He demanded his friend leave immediately. Watching someone we both trusted reveal their true colours like that was devastating. It felt like a part of our lives was shattered. But in that moment, I learned something important. Silence only protects those who hurt you. What I didn't realize at the time was just how much this experience would change me. It wasn't just about what happened in that kitchen, it was about recognizing my own strength. For years I'd avoided confrontation, always trying to keep the peace. But this time I couldn't ignore the voice inside me telling me to stand up for myself. And when I did, I realized how powerful that choice was. My husband and I spent the next few days processing everything. We talked about boundaries, trust, and how important it is to truly know the people we allow into our lives. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it brought us closer in ways I never expected. The thing is, situations like this happen more often than we realize. It's easy to ignore red flags or make excuses for someone's behavior, especially when they're someone you trust. But ignoring those feelings, those gut instincts, can lead to even more pain. If you've ever felt unsafe or disrespected, know this: you have every right to stand up for yourself. It doesn't make you rude or difficult or dramatic. It makes you strong. It makes you brave. And most importantly, it keeps you safe. In the days that followed, my husband and I had a lot of tough conversations about trust, about boundaries, and about how we let people into our lives. It wasn't easy, but it brought us closer in a way I never expected. I'm sharing this because situations like this happen more often than we realize. Sometimes the people we trust the most can be the ones who cross boundaries, but it's how we respond that matters. If you've ever felt unsafe or disrespected, know this: you are not alone, and your voice matters. If you've ever been in a similar situation, or if you've ever wondered how to handle something like this, I want you to do one thing right now. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Your story might be the one that helps someone else find their courage. And if you're watching this and thinking about how you can better protect the people you care about, start by having the tough conversations. Share this video with someone you trust, because awareness is the first step toward change. Closing shot: the couple hugging with text overlay. Your voice can change everything. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and never be afraid to stand up for yourself. Remember, every action you take to protect your well-being is a step toward a stronger you. Share your strength and inspire others. Together, we can create a safer, more respectful community